Right, well, this is the old museum premises, and it started off its life in about 1912 as a Austin Morris dealership. So it's steeped in history. Carried on with BMC, BLMC, all the name changes right up until about mid 80s, I believe. It was then sold for development, and that didn't take place, fortunately. And I had fancied the site from about 1988, 89 onwards, and was just sort of keeping an eye on it, and then realised that it maybe could be bought. So we'd already bought a site, so we couldn't buy it in one lump. So we had to buy it in bits and pieces, which we did. We now fortunately own a whole site. We've gradually bought these areas, like what used to be the fuel pumps and stuff like that, workshops around the back, and then I had this brilliant idea in probably early mid 90s, 94, 95. Long time ago now, of starting up a museum. You know, as the area sort of lends itself to tourism, I thought we'd do a little museum and retail classic and vintage cars. So Paul and I mainly, David run Rillington Garage, Paul and I ran this one, worked at the workshops at the back, showroom downstairs, of course, with MGs and such like in this area, again, as showroom or what have you, stroke museum. So really it worked out really quite well, in as much as that I put my own collection in, which was the basis of the museum display, and then any sales vehicles mingled in, so it was pretty useful. So we were selling cars out of the museum. It worked really, really nice. And that carried on really right up until the auction. Well, to COVID, really, I suppose. Even after the first auction, it carried on. COVID sort of knocked it on the head. But we decided in about April 2011, I think it was March, April, that we want to do an auction, and that's how the auction started. And of course, we had nowhere to run it from but here, and it was quite strange, really. But people said, in fact, Paul said, everybody said, you know, where are we going to hold the auction? And to be perfectly truthful, I didn't know. I thought, well, I'll think of that afterwards. Let's get an auction publicised first, get on the go, get it out there, see what interest we get. And again, the next question was, well, where are you going to get the entries? Where are you going to get the cars from? Well, we've got a shed down the road with we did have about 60 cars in. And I said, well, if we get 40 out of there, advertised, if we get another 20, then we've got a little auction, simple as that. And then the next thing was, where are you going to hold the auction? And I'll be honest, I weren't too sure, really. So we've sort of kicked it off, really. It's far too early and without giving it enough thought, but I just wanted to get on with it, and I thought, well, it'll slot into place somehow. These things always do. And then it dawned on me, I walked down there one day and I thought, Village Hall, perfect auction hall across the road there. I mean, literally, it couldn't be better, could it? It's like almost like our own auction hall on site. We've only got a road in between, which is a nuisance, but it didn't matter. And then, so we secured that, and then next thing was auctioneer. And again, I didn't know really what to do about auctioneer. I've got a friend of mine, George Gamesby, who was a very, very brilliant auctioneer, retired, that said he would do it if he really had to as a favour. But I thought, well, I can fall back on him, so I'm going to call that favour in. Then a guy came in, and a local livestock auctioneer, and said, you know, what are you going to do about auctioneer? And I said, well, you'll do, we'll have you. So we did. So that all fell into place. So it all went click, 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 click into place. It was quite amazing, really. As it happens, he didn't know much about cars, so from the second auction onwards, I had to do it myself, which was frightening. It really is frightening, because you don't really know what you're doing. Although I've been around auctions all my life, I've been the other side of the rostrum, not this side of the rostrum. So it was frightening. Anyway, we carried on with that, and I think 3 auctions the first year, maybe, or something on that sort of line. So this carried on, in other words. You know, it carried on as a museum and a dealership and such like, paint shop there and so on and so on. And this is the sort of remnants of it, if you like, really. When we outgrew this and went to Pickering, we weren't too sure what to do with this. I think we're probably a little bit more sure now, and that is, ideally, I think, turning it back into a museum. I think that's the answer. So this type of stuff will be in the museum when it is sorted. We've got a health and safety issue. We've got to get over that, which I'm sure we will. But this was the main part of the museum display, really. You know, we had our own vehicles all the way up here, that we've had for 20, 30, 40 years, and well, everywhere come to that. So as you can see, it's not very big. Well, that goes through there. We'll go through there in a second. We've extended since then the back bit there and put the mezzanine in, which is perfect for motorbikes. So we need to put a safe set of stairs up there, and people will be able to go up and see the motorbike collection up there, which would be lovely. but this down here will stay much the same as it is now. We generally had cars displayed more or less as they are, but with one row up the middle to give more room for people to walk up and down. So we'll do the same thing again, I would imagine. But a lot of this stuff in here now is, a lot of it's our own vehicles, but a lot of it is auction vehicles that we just use. We use the premises now for overspill, what it boils down to. So, but I like being down here. I'm not very keen on Pickering site. Not because of Pickering site, but I'm not keen on trading estates. I don't like working on trading estates. I think they're soulless, whereas this has got some sort of character about it, so I prefer to be here. So if I'm not out collecting, I'm here cleaning up. I'm just doing the van and plant now, just getting that all minted up and whatever. There's 2 or 3 more I've got to do this week. I'll just show you. This stuff here is ours. These vehicles have been ours with the exception of that one, but the rest of the row are ours. This is an auction vehicle just come in. That one is one of ours, but it will be moved on and sold. It's not quite our cup of tea anymore, really. Not a bad little museum display, but by the time we get the museum sorted, we'll have an opportunity to buy plenty of them, so it won't be a problem. Mark 1 Zephyr convertible there, as you can see, beautiful thing. This is an auction entry. Poor gentleman who owned this passed away, so it's in for the sale. It didn't get away last auction, but it will do next, I'm sure. Reserve has been lowered a little bit. The little Bedford belongs to an old customer of mine that I've dealt with for 20 odd years. Lovely little motor, quite unusual little Bedfords. Sliding doors, as you can see. It's a Bedford CA, it's a 3-speed one, this one. I think it's 3-speed, I better just double check that, but I'm sure it is. And it's had a pretty thorough rebuild recently. Not the best paint job in the world, but it would flat and polish quite nicely. So that's in for the next sale. This one here didn't sell at the last sale, wants a bit of work, as you can see, but it's cheap. So hopefully this will get away at the next sale. Our little A35 van that I used, not last year, the year before, and I'll almost certainly use it again this year. You know, for a few months, I like using that. A couple of oldies there, as you can see, that we've had in stock for a long, long time. And at the back here, I'll just show you quickly. As I say, just getting this one cleaned up for the next auction. This will be looking mint in the next couple of days. In fact, if I can get onto it, might even do it tonight. I don't know, we'll see. But she's a lovely car. Andy Joyson's taking advantage of some cheap storage. He's the owner and producer of Air TV, so that's going to have to be moved pretty quick because that's now in the way. Paul's bowler thing that he and Charlie like doing off-road things on, or with, that's just on display and somewhere sort of safe to keep it. One of our Aston Martins, we've had fortunate enough to have collected quite a lot of Aston Martins. There's a late drophead there, Volante. This one here is quite an intriguing car. It's actually Paul and Angie's, but only done sort of 17,000 miles. Don't look it, but it is absolutely genuine. That there is an Australian bodied Vauxhall, which is very, very, very rare, but unfortunately no engine. So that's a winter project, that one. That's the sort of thing you spend cold evenings on during the winter. Commercials I like very much myself. This one came along some time back, maybe last year or the year before. Interesting little van. Again, perfect little museum exhibit, that one. And then we got some more of our own stuff here. Things that, partnership vehicles, some Aston Martins. In there, it's an older one, 58, that one. DB24 Mark III. That's a DBS Vantage. That's a fairly unusual car. Lovely colour as well. Nice thing. Again, I wouldn't say they're investment vehicles. We just like to collect Aston Martins. Charlie and I own this one. Charlie, my grandson, we own this between us. We chipped in and bought this between us. So he's got an interest in Bedfords, which of course he has. And we use that for shows and such like. I'll just show you through here briefly. Are we all right for time?
All good.
All good. Come through. This is the old walkway, as we call it. We used to have motorbikes in here, lined up, and a big TV screen playing old videos, which went down really well. That's the old telephone exchange. It's just a junk hole at the moment. All this stuff came in just before or during COVID, and we've never, ever been able to catch up. But we've got to try, and we are actually doing a bit better now at catching up. So hopefully a lot of that should be gone this year, and we can refill it again with another load of stuff. And then I'll turn that radio off. This is the old workshop. This is where Paul and I used to work. We had a couple of lifts in here and we used to work all day in here. Now it's again overspill. That's basically all we use it for now. Really, is literally overspill. You know, if stuff comes in, we tend to unload it in here, do whatever we're going to do with it, mint it up, clean it up whenever it's ready to go up there. Another one of our Astons there, as you can see. So it's a useful shed. Holds quite a number of vehicles, as you can see. And motorbikes over here. We also use it again, you know, carefully. We don't sort of cause vehicles to be like an invalid and cripple them and that, so they're not movable, but just happened that we got head gasket gone on that Bentley, so I'm doing that there. Motorbikes just come in for the next sale. Some memorabilia that we're gradually working through over there, and the rest of it basically is vehicles that will go in auction as and when we get a chance to get them out and get them cleaned and away, owned by sort of people that are not too bothered about them going through very quick, so that's a good thing. Takes the pressure off us. One of our own, Bentley Continental, bit of a rarity. So that's basically what we use Thornton Dow for. Hopefully it'll come into its own a lot more and a lot better very, very soon. Hope so.